In 1970, a researcher at Stanford University sat a 4-year-old child down in a small room, placed a single marshmallow on the table, and made a simple offer. Wait 15 minutes without eating it, and you get 2 marshmallows. Then he left the room. What happened next would become one of the most important psychological discoveries of the 20th century. But here is the part nobody tells you. The original conclusion was completely wrong. And by the end of this video, you will understand something about delayed gratification that most people, including most psychologists, got backwards for decades. The researcher's name was Walter Mischel. The study was called the Stanford Marshmallow Experiment, and the original findings seemed clear. Children who could wait for the second marshmallow grew up to be more successful, better grades, better careers, better health, higher SAT scores, better relationships. The ability to wait, it seemed, predicted almost everything, so the world ran with it. Self-help books declared delayed gratification the ultimate superpower. Parents tried to teach it, schools tried to instill it. Productivity gurus monetized it. Everyone agreed, the people who can wait win, the people who can't lose. But then, in 2018, a new study looked at the original data more carefully, and it found something that changed everything. The children who waited for the second marshmallow did not succeed because they had more willpower. They succeeded because they grew up in stable homes, with reliable parents, with consistent environments where promises were kept. They waited because their entire life had taught them that waiting was safe, that the future was trustworthy, that what was promised would actually arrive. The children who ate the marshmallow immediately were not weak. They were rational. Their environments had taught them a different lesson. That things disappear, that promises break, that the only thing you can count on is what is in front of you right now. Therefore, the marshmallow test was never a test of willpower, it was a test of trust. And that single shift in understanding changes everything about how we think about delayed gratification, why some people have it and others don't, and most importantly, how anyone can build it. This is the lens most people never use when they think about this topic. Not willpower, trust. Think about the last time you spent money you shouldn't have, or skipped the gym, or chose the short-term comfort over the long-term goal. The standard explanation says you lacked discipline, but what if your brain had simply learned through years of experience that the future was unreliable, that the reward might never come, that waiting was a risk your environment had never given you a reason to take? Because that is exactly how the brain works. Your prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for long-term thinking and impulse control, does not operate in isolation. It operates in context. It reads your history, it scans your environment, and it makes a calculation. Is waiting safe here? Will the reward actually arrive? Is the future trustworthy? If the answer is yes, waiting feels manageable. If the answer is no, waiting feels irrational. And your brain is not wrong for making that calculation. It is doing precisely what it was designed to do. But here is where it gets fascinating, because knowing this does not mean you are stuck. It means you finally have the right problem to solve. Most people try to build delayed gratification by strengthening willpower, white-knuckling their way through discomfort, telling themselves to be stronger. But willpower is a finite resource. It depletes throughout the day. It collapses under stress. It is the worst possible foundation to build a life on. The people who are genuinely good at delaying gratification are not relying on willpower. They are relying on something entirely different. They have built environments that make waiting easy, systems that make the right choice the default choice, identities that make patience feel natural rather than forced. James, a man I know, tried for 3 years to save money. Every month he made a budget. Every month he broke it. He blamed himself. He called himself undisciplined. He tried harder. He failed again. Then someone told him to stop trying to resist spending and start automating saving. He set up an automatic transfer the day his salary arrived. The money left before he could see it, feel it, or spend it. Year 1, 12,000 saved. Not because he got stronger, because he removed the need for strength entirely. That is delayed gratification done correctly, not an act of willpower, an act of design. And this is the second truth that most people never reach. The people who delay gratification best are not the ones with the most self-control. They are the ones who have engineered their lives so that self-control is rarely required. They sleep early so they are not exhausted when decisions get hard. They meal prep so hunger never hijacks their judgment. They leave their phone in another room so distraction never competes with focus. They say no to small things in advance so they never face the choice in the moment. They do not resist temptation, they architect around it. But there is a third layer, and this is the one that separates the people who sustain delayed gratification for a lifetime from the people who manage it for a month before collapsing. It is identity, not discipline, not environment. Identity. The person who sees themselves as someone who prioritizes the future does not experience delayed gratification as sacrifice. They experience it as self-expression. Skipping the impulse purchase is not painful, it is consistent with who they are. Staying on the diet is not a battle, it is an act of being themselves. And the person who has not yet built that identity. Every act of waiting feels like deprivation, every delayed reward feels like punishment, because they are fighting against their self-concept rather than flowing from it. This is why the question is never how do I get more willpower, the question is always who do I need to believe I am. A woman I know had spent her entire 20s living paycheck to paycheck. She tried every budget, every savings app, every strategy, nothing stuck. Then one day she stopped asking how do I save money and started asking who is the kind of person who naturally builds wealth. She wrote down 3 things that person would do daily. Read 1 page of a finance book, transfer $5 to savings, say no to 1 impulse purchase, tiny, almost embarrassingly small. But she was not trying to change her behavior, she was trying to change her identity 1 small proof at a time. 2 years later, she had $18,000 saved and a completely different relationship with money. Same income, different self-concept, different life. And so we come back to the marshmallow. That 4-year-old sitting alone in the room, staring at the sugar and the empty promise of more, was not making a character decision. They were making a rational calculation based on everything life had taught them so far. They were being completely logical given the world they had experienced. Therefore, the question for you is never were you the child who waited or the child who ate. The question is, what has your world taught you to expect from the future? And is that lesson still true today? Because here's what I know. The brain that learned to distrust the future can learn to trust it again, through small kept promises to yourself, through environments designed for success rather than willpower, through an identity built 1 tiny daily decision at a time. Delayed gratification is not a gift some people are born with, it is a skill, built slowly, quietly, through trust. And trust begins the moment you make 1 small promise to your future self and actually keep it. The marshmallow was never about the marshmallow, it was always about whether you believed the second one would actually come. Start building that belief today. If this changed how you see yourself and your future, hit subscribe. Because the biggest transformations don't start with discipline, they start with understanding yourself differently. And that's exactly what we do here every single week. Comment the word trust if this shifted something in you. Because if you made it to the end of this video, you already have more patience than you think.